Hello there everyone, you've tuned in uxwbill, and today I have a bit of cautionary advice for you. Although I expect some of you out there already know this, don't ever place a lowball bid on an eBay item thinking there is no way in the world you will ever win it. Because you just might. And then what do? Because you were only being a smarty pants. Well, you get a package in the mail. Or rather delivered via United Parcel Smashers, as I did today. This is supposed to be two older APC uninterruptible power supply units, but as you can see, the seller appears to have done a very lousy job of packaging them. And I say that as someone who has seen more than my fair share of truly terrible packing jobs. This is the first one that I might even go so far as to say is criminally awful. I'll show you why. Let's go ahead and take a look in here. I already took some pictures of this in case the shipment was in fact damaged. Although, let's face it, when you're in it for about $30 shipping and 99 cents actual item cost, I mean the items have had a higher value than that, to me at least. Of course that's a nebulous concept. Good luck proving it to the people at United Parcel Smashers. And it's not really their fault anyway, in my opinion, because I don't think they packed this. It went to a UPS store, but I don't think the UPS store uses Duck brand packaging materials. This came all the way up here from Florida to Illinois, and I think it will be minorly miraculous if these have not been absolutely smashed to smithereens. There you go, folks. Never lose faith, because apparently miracles do in fact happen. I would imagine at this point that both of these probably have hopelessly dead batteries. This one is the more interesting one of the bunch. I'm kind of curious about this thing, because even though it's a much more basic model, it's a similar vintage to that new old stock Smart UPS 600 that I found. And I am curious if like its more sophisticated brother, if it might actually have a true sine wave output. So if this thing happens to work, I'll slap a scope meter on it at some point. That's not something that should be done casually, by the way. If you don't know what you're doing when you go to scope the AC power line, you could have something go bang in a very exciting and maybe even injurious way. And I don't want to be responsible for any of my viewers getting hurt, so, you know, don't even think about trying that at home. Leave the dangerous stuff to me. Either I got very, very lucky, and I'm sure I did, or there was a time when American Power Conversion's products were truly built to go the extra mile. Let's go ahead and get the other one out here. I'm less interested in this one because, as those of you who've been watching for a while already know, I already have one of these, a Smart UPS 420. It's done an admirable job for me over the years, maintaining the availability of my internet connection when the lights go out. I've only had to replace the battery in it once. Its previous owners hugely overloaded it. I don't know how they ever expected it to hold on as long as it did. Let's go ahead and see what we've got here. And this other one being a Smart UPS, it'll actually play completely dead if the battery has failed or dropped below a certain voltage point because it just can't store any electrical energy any longer. And I solemnly swear to all of you out there in the viewing audience that I have done nothing to modify the contents of this box. What you're seeing is exactly how it came to me. No padding, no packing material, nothing. Those UPSs were free to just slam around in there however they could. And knowing the nature of the things to which those packages are subjected within any of the major carriers' parcel handling systems, you know these things can't have been treated gently, but they seem to have reached me in basically the same condition that they left. Now this one I'll probably actually take it apart and have a look inside because it's the one I care about, but let's see if it's got any zip to its battery whatsoever. I didn't think it would. Rather interestingly, there doesn't appear to be a light in the power switch. Huh. Would have thought there was some kind of an indicator. Let's just see what this one does. No, I think the batteries in them are both hopelessly dead. But all of you out there in the viewing audience who like smoke tests, by golly, we're going to try to have one. It's been a while since the fuses have been replaced. Maybe they need changing. Alright, plug it in. Nothing blew up. But yeah, those batteries are hopelessly dead. So that unit's going to need some work. But it's nothing that can't be done. We'll go ahead and pop the cover on this one and see what we've got in there. Well, the good news is this other unit, the one that I'm arguably much more interested in, as I stated previously, appears to be in exceptional condition, apart from some dust and a missing rubber foot on the bottom, but that's easily enough fixed. You suppose those could by any chance be the original batteries? I'd not be at all surprised to find that they were. Of course, in all probability by this point they're hopelessly dead. Won't necessarily stop me from trying it. After all, sometimes miracles do happen. Although for 25-year-old batteries, I don't know that you can expect that much. Maybe a little bit older than that. This thing is certainly simpler than its smart UPS brethren. There are some interesting design decisions in the way that this unit was put together. I'm surprised that those MOVs are placed toward the front of the unit. You'd think they'd be much nearer to the back, where the power actually comes in and goes out. But it looks like they were content just to run a long set of wires from the front of the unit all the way back to the single outlet receptacle on the back. Also find it interesting where they put the heatsink for the power transistors within the inverter. You can see it's kind of wrapped around in just a U shape. Not a whole lot of clearance for isolation, assuming that heatsink is live, which it may or may not be. I really don't know. Haven't tested it. And then here on the back we have the data plate. Manufactured in the 6th week of 1990. So definitely not a spring chicken. They don't tell you where it's made as far as I can tell. But odds are when this thing was new, it was probably assembled right here in the United States. Looks like the circuit board actually has to come out before you could change the batteries. I don't know if you could put like a 12 volt 9 amp hour battery in there, or you'd have to do it the way they did it with two 6 volt batteries. Doesn't matter. The 6 volts are just as readily available as anything else, and they certainly are cheap enough. So let's go ahead and plug this thing in and just see what it does. Alright folks, here we go. I sure hope this doesn't scar the kitchen table, because I will almost certainly get in trouble if it does. Just plug it in and see. No flames, no smoke, no sparks. No runs, no drips. No idea if it works. But there is a relay clicking, so I'd say miraculously, once again, this one somehow survived as well. Only one other thing I want to take a look at. I want to take a look at the batteries in that one, see how bloated up they might be. This other UPS dates from the 29th week of 2003. And again, it looks like a case of the original factory supplied battery being in place. If this little stamped wheel on the bottom is any kind of an indication, the 5th month of 2003 in all likelihood. Why do people never change the batteries on these things? Do they just not know that it needs to be done? Can I actually pull this out of here? I don't think so. Not on camera, at least. There's definitely a disparity between this battery serial number, which indicates the 6th week of 2003, and the stamped plastic wheel on the bottom, which I'm not entirely sure how to interpret, but apparently it's not strictly related to the date of manufacture. I don't think it would be the time either, because there's 24 hours in a day. Maybe it's a line number. It's hard to tell. But in any event, it doesn't really matter, because you know this battery's got to be hopelessly dead at this point. Although amazingly, and somewhat unusually, it's not cooked well done like a lot of these long since expired batteries would be. It's not even remotely bloated. There's only the slightest sign that maybe it got a little bit warm inside this uninterruptible power supply. But I think with a set of new batteries, both of these can certainly live again. So thank you as always for watching. Definitely do not place Smarty Pants bids on eBay unless you're prepared to win something. And as always, do feel free to leave a comment if by some chance you happen to have one.